Have you ever come across the game with a premise so good that it could have been one of your favorite horror games, only to find out the execution is just busted? That's Michigan, Report from Hell. A game where you don't fight the monsters, you film the horror. People getting eaten alive, crushed by trains, or torn apart for the evening news. Imagine if the film Nightcrawler and Record had a baby, and seasoned it a little bit with Outlast. That's what this is. This could have been a classic. And to some, it is. It's a guilty pleasure. But really what we got is kind of broken. But it had some really interesting ideas. This video is part of the Oddities series on the channel, where we dig into weird, offbeat games that didn't quite land, but still had something to say. Some of these were ambitious but broken, some were just bizarre from the ground up, and a few were worth remembering for what they tried to do, even if the execution fell apart. Michigan fits that mold perfectly. It's messy, confusing, flawed, but underneath all that, the concept is brilliant.
It opened!
So, what is it? It's a horror game, but you don't play as a survivor or a hero. You're the cameraman, literally. Your job is to film chaos for a TV station as this mysterious mist rolls into Chicago after a plane crash in Lake Michigan. You can't fight and you don't have a health bar, but you can control what gets filmed, tell the reporter where to go, and maybe guide the story based on what footage you prioritize. Suspense, shock, or sleaze. It all adds up and decides your ending.
It's a key! You've got a dirty mind, don't you?
The game's broken into levels called scenarios. You've got limited film, limited control, and a reporter who can die if you're careless, which swaps her out with someone else mid-game. It's a bizarre system, but kind of ahead of its time in some ways, especially for 2004. The whole thing was developed by Grasshopper Manufacture, and if that sounds familiar, that's the studio behind Killer 7, Lollipop Chainsaw, and the bigger name No More Heroes. Back then, they were still doing contract work to stay afloat, and Michigan came out of that era. It never launched in North America, between the weird gameplay and low budget. Kind of vanished. But what's left behind is a one-of-a-kind concept that still sticks with people who played it. Setting aside the broken game itself, the mechanics and the ideas are actually really cool in theory. At the top of the screen, there's a morality meter. It's tied to how and what you choose to film. And you have 3 types of points. Suspense, for doing your normal job, clean headshots during dialogue, important discoveries, think kind of like just solid journalism. Then there's erotic, and yeah, it's exactly what you think. The game rewards you for creeping on your reporter or finding adult-themed items in the game. And then there's immoral. You earn these points by filming tragedies. Let people die, ignore screams for help, bumping into your teammates, or excessive filmings of dead bodies. The game shows these points at the top of the screen on the bar. There's green for suspense, red for erotic, and in the middle the immoral bar will pop up whenever you start doing that stuff. There's no real balancing act though. They don't cancel each other out. You're basically just stacking whichever one you lean into the most. But here's my bigger issue with it and how it could be better. It doesn't feel like these points really matter. You're not incentivized to go all in on one path. And you're not punished for being scattered. I never really felt pressured to chase a specific style of play. I just filmed what was in front of me and let the system sort itself out. There are unlockables for maxing out one path with minimal points in the others, but I didn't feel like the game leaned very heavily on that. So unless you're following a guide, you're probably just free-floating through every level like I was. So the whole game, every cutscene, every moment of gameplay, is through a camera lens. So aside from the points tracker at the top, of course you can zoom in and out, there's also a tape timer, that's a mechanic. It shows you how much filming time you have left for the scenario. Once it hits 0, you can still progress, but you stop earning any points, which directly affects the ending. There's the battery meter. It's kind of vague, but this is basically your progress bar. It doesn't run out like health or anything, it just tracks how far you are in the level. The reticle can also change colors. If it's green, you're looking at the reporter. If it's red, you're looking at something you can shoot, be it an enemy or an interactable to help fight the enemies. If it goes orange, it's an interactable. If it's a red square, that just means something that you can interact with is too far away. There's also reporter rings that appear on the floor. The red ones mean the reporter's about to say something important, so start filming it. Green is optional footage, they'll walk away eventually if you don't go up to them. White means they're waiting on you to tag something, like a door to open or a key to pick up. And then there's blue, usually signals a detour with extra suspense points or a minor side event. And like I had said earlier, the game is broken into self-contained chapters. They're called scenarios. Each one has a beginning, middle, and an end. But the catch with it is if your reporter dies, if you let them get killed by a monster, the game skips ahead to the next batch of scenarios and replaces them with a different reporter, and you lose whatever moments were in that action. There's only 1 or 2 moments in the entire game where you can actually die, but if you do die, that level restarts from the beginning. So the part where Michigan gets creative and kind of broken is you don't control the action directly like I've said, you just kind of guide it. You move the camera, frame your shots, and tag objects in the world. The reporter walks on a set path, but you tell them what objects to interact with, what doors to open, what keys to pick up, what enemies to shoot at. You can solve puzzles by noticing environment details and tagging them for the reporter to comment on, and some enemies can be defeated with these puzzles, others you just kind of avoid by warning your crew in time. All of these ideas behind the mechanics are super cool to me, like genuinely. The morale alignment based on what you film, different types of reporters, death skipping you ahead in the story, is pretty wild. But the problem is, most of it feels kind of surface level. Like this team had this awesome idea, put the scaffolding up, and then never built the rest of the house. Nothing really pushes you to explore those systems deeply. The morality bar exists, but it doesn't really challenge you. The unique mechanics are there, but they rarely connect to each other in a meaningful way. It's like the blueprint was there, but the game never had the time or budget to fully commit. And that's kind of what makes the game a little frustrating for me. Because underneath all the busted AI and half-baked mechanics, there's a skeleton of something really special here. This whole point system, the suspense, erotic, and immoral, it's actually a solid foundation. It just doesn't go anywhere. You rack up points, get an ending, maybe unlock a bonus or 2, but nothing you do really changes the moment-to-moment gameplay. So let's talk about what could have been. What if going down the immoral path didn't just get you points, it actually let you manipulate the world? You're not just some passive observer anymore. You're setting up the shot, moving corpses to stage a more dramatic scene, maybe luring a civilian into danger so you can catch the moment on tape. It'd be awful, but that's the point. The game wants to explore that moral rot. Now let's take that a step further. Imagine other NPCs roaming the world, witnesses. If someone sees you doing something shady, they might call the cops. Maybe your crew starts distrusting you. That unlocks a stealth layer, avoiding detection, choosing when to risk going full scumbag for the perfect shot, or when to keep it clean to stay under the radar. Or let's say you do play it clean. Focused, suspense heavy, maybe that unlocks access to higher grade gear, better zoom lenses, longer tape reels, directional mics that pick up secret conversations. Your ethical choices could shape your entire loadout. Hell, even the erotic path could have more to it. Not just crude shots for points, but exploring voyeurism as a twisted part of the horror, the discomfort, the blurred line between documenting and exploiting. If you're going to go there with intent, not as a cheap throwaway stat. That's what Michigan's missing, consequence. Not just the ending, but in every scene, every shot. A real sense that what you choose to film and how you film it affects your story, your tools, and your relationships. And look, I know I'm taking this part pretty far, but that's because the idea behind this game genuinely excites me. I love found footage horror. That mix of voyeurism, panic, and realism where the camera is both your only weapon and your biggest weakness. And Michigan, it flirted with being that. But what if someone took this core concept and actually built something bigger with it? Just picture this. You start every day in a rundown news station, your hub. The police scanners are rattling off incident codes. There's a whiteboard with rumors and leads, other crew members arguing over which story will get the most traction. And then you pick one. A stabbing in a nightclub, an unexplained blackout in an apartment complex, a creature sighting in the subway. Whatever it is, you choose where to go. And then you gear up, maybe the van's barely working, maybe you saved enough money from your last scoop to bring better lenses or a backup battery, and then you hit the road. When you arrive, the situation's dynamic. It could be mid-chaos, could be quiet but tense. Maybe the scene's already been cleared, but someone nearby saw something, and that's where a whole other layer kicks in. You could interview witnesses. Ask what happened, who was here, what they saw. If you listen carefully, if you frame the shot right, they might give you extra context or a hint at something you missed, a blood trail in the alley, a second victim no one found. Maybe it's set up, maybe it's real. Either way, it's info you wouldn't have without doing the legwork. And the kicker with it is you choose how to use it. You can keep it real or you can frame it to fit a narrative, selectively cut, manipulate the headline, boost the drama, and upload that manipulated footage to social media from a laptop or something back at the station, and just watch the views roll in, or don't. In your payout, it could be based on your moral points and engagement. More views, more money's better gear. But in moral points, maybe the police stop cooperating with you, maybe your crew turns on you, or maybe you lean into it, go full Nightcrawler, and become infamous. All of it feeds back into your newsroom, your character, your story. You could maybe even decorate your workplace, hang up clippings of your biggest stories, upgrade your vehicle, unlock vanity gear for your reporter, just total immersion. But it still comes back to this. How far are you willing to go for the perfect shot? Because that's what Michigan wanted to be, a horror game where the camera is the gameplay, where information is power, and where the scariest thing isn't the monster, it's the choice to film it or not. Don't get me wrong here, I'm not tearing this game apart. I think the ideas of it are fantastic. I just wish the execution was a little better.
Pull me up, will you? Hey, hurry up! Come on! The train's coming! Hey! Ah!
And hey, if you're into weird, broken games with killer ideas buried underneath them, go ahead and hit that sub button. The whole Oddities Room series is all about that. Games that had special ideas, or just weird in general. Games worth remembering. And if you're watching this far in, I think you'll really like the channel.
Got to do something nice for the viewers, right?
I had mentioned before that all these ideas and mechanics are super cool, but the execution seems surface level, kinda half-built, like someone had a killer concept and never just got to finish the thought. And the deeper I got into making this video, the more it kinda started to make sense. Like I had mentioned, Michigan was made by Grasshopper Manufacture, the developer of Killer 7, No More Heroes, Lollipop Chainsaw, and a lot more. A studio that became known for being bold, strange, and unforgettable. But back in the early 2000s, they were still finding their way. They were working on contract jobs just to stay above water. This wasn't some passion project with a full team and a big budget. It was a scramble to survive. The idea came from Goichi Suda, Suda51 himself. He was approached by Spike, a publisher who wanted to collaborate on something. Suda had pitched a concept centered on mist, the idea that you'd be exploring a city consumed by fog, where the mist itself was the threat, but the team couldn't quite get it to work. So they pivoted, monsters were added, and the concept of being a cameraman guiding a reporter through dangerous situations became the new core. It was weird, but it was also different. Suda didn't direct it, he was deep into Killer 7 at the time. But he stayed on as a behind-the-scenes producer. The game was led by Akira Ueda, who had experience directing handheld RPGs like Shining Soul, while the script was co-written by people who would go on to shape No More Heroes. And if you listen closely, you'll hear early traces of Killer 7's iconic music here. This is the first time Masafumi Takada and Jun Fukuda worked together. So what does that mean? It means Michigan wasn't just some random one-off horror game. It was a stepping stone, a creative experiment that came before Grasshopper found its voice. And you can feel that awkward growing pain in every part of this. The pacing, the tone, the mechanics, that almost land but fall apart under pressure. And yet, there's still something here. It's not scary in the way it wants to be. It's not as smart or provocative as it pretends. But it is memorable, and in time where we get fewer and fewer weird risks like this, that counts for something. That's exactly what my series, The Oddities Room, is about. This is where we keep the misfits, the strange ideas, the broken games that tried something nobody else was doing. Even if they failed, they deserve a place on the shelf, because someone tried, and Michigan absolutely earns that spot. It's voyeuristic, busted, messy, and at the same time, kind of ahead of its time. I don't think it's a hidden gem. I don't even think it's a good game, really. But it's fascinating, and it says a lot about what horror can be when it steps outside the box.
There's a monster right in front of us!
And when the game launched, I think we can all assume that it didn't make waves, but it did manage to move around 31,000 copies in Japan, cracking the top 500 sellers of 2004. Over there it landed at a respectable 30 out of 40 from Famitsu, but outside of Japan, it never saw an official North American release. And what coverage it did get was mixed at best. Critics had a hard time wrapping their heads around it. Some called the core idea bold, even groundbreaking. Others just found it awkward, especially when it came to the erotic scoring system. A lot of the discomfort came from how clunky the game felt in motion. Controls were stiff, the camera framing often broke during key moments, and players could lose full sequences on story beats just by pointing the lens in the wrong way. But even with all that, a few people saw the potential. Over the years, writers have circled back to Michigan as a kind of what could have been case. Hardcore Gaming 101 called it a genuinely unique experiment, and Game Informer speculated it might have carved out a cult following if it had made it stateside. And with Suda51's later fame, collectors started digging into Grasshopper's old catalog, and found something weirdly compelling buried here. It's one of those games where the premise is more memorable than the actual experience, but that's exactly what makes it so interesting to look back on now. And even with all that rough reception, Michigan stuck with its creators too. In a 2009 interview, Suda51 said that after watching the Spanish horror movie Wreck, the movie I brought up in the beginning, he realized it was basically Michigan, but done right. He even said he'd love to revisit the idea someday with a remake or a new version, and that says a lot. Even the guy behind it felt like there was more left on the table.
Who could have done this?
Michigan Report from Hell isn't a good game in the traditional sense. It's clunky, awkward, and full of design choices that feel like they were never fully thought through. But that's exactly what makes it special. There's a kind of raw, experimental energy here that's hard to find anymore. This was a team swinging for something different. Before Grasshopper made a name for itself, before Suda51 had a cult following, they were trying to explore morality, voyeurism, and media manipulation in a survival horror wrapper long before those ideas were cool. Even if it didn't fully land, you can see the DNA of future games tucked inside this one. And that's why it deserves a spot in the vault here, because sometimes weird games matter, not just for what they were, but for what they're trying to do. Michigan was chasing something. It just didn't have the tools, or maybe the time, to catch it. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't remember it.
On top of these bookshelves.
Thanks for hanging out in the Oddities Room with me. We just cracked 700 subs recently, and we're inching closer every day to 1,000, which, if you know YouTube, you know that's a massive milestone. Hitting that first 1,000 unlocks a lot of doors, and it's a huge step towards making this vault something permanent. If you like this video or just love digging into weird, forgotten horror games, consider subbing and hitting the bell so you don't miss the next one. I'm throwing the horror shelf in the Oddities Room up as the end card here, so if you want more strange, creepy, or underrated horror games to check out, that's where you can go next. And thanks again for hanging out with me. And as always, I'll see y'all later.
Stay away! This guy is nuts!